from Seattle International Airport, I'm proud to present Alaska Flight 950 from Seattle to Spokane International. This flight will take about an hour. That's a short flight. Um, this is the iFly Boeing 737-900 extended range. This isn't going to be a review for that aircraft. It is one of my favorite add-ons ever for Flight Simulator, 2004. But um, yeah, I'm not gonna do too much talking. This is my first live stream, so I'm just gonna do what I normally do, um, and I think we'll have a good time. Little background on me. I used to fly airplanes for real. I don't anymore. I was actually in training to be an airline pilot almost 20 years ago now. But mostly due to running out of money. It didn't happen. I didn't make it all the way through flight school. I kind of ran out of funding. But I have been flight simulating since I was 12. So that's the better part of 40 years. I'm not that old yet. Better part of 30 years that I have been flight simulating. So I've seen all kinds of things. And it's the best 737 that I've ever seen in a simulation. It's wonderful. There's lots of detractors out there, but I don't care what they say because I love this thing with all my heart. Anyway, so like I said, this isn't going to be a review for the product. This is mainly just a test to see how this streaming is going to work. So anyway, let's get the plane started. Battery on. Okay, AC selector set to APU gen. Cabin utility on. In-flight entertainment. Passenger seats are on. Auto bus transfer is on. Let's start the APU, and we'll start on the left-hand side of the overhead. Make sure everything looks good. It does. Head on over here. Make sure everything looks good. Okay, down the middle here, we're going to arm the emergency exit lights. We're going to turn no smoking to on. Fasten seatbelts we're going to leave off for right now. Let's make sure that all the exterior lighting is on. So logo lights are on, position lights are set to steady, anti-collision lights are on. Okay, we're going to monitor temperature in the passenger cabin. We're going to turn trim air on. And I'm just going to turn the temperature selectors to the coldest for right now because I just love cold air conditioned air. I really do. Left recirculation fan to auto, right recirculation fan to auto. Both air conditioning packs set to auto. Isolation valve is going to be set to auto. We're going to go into dual bleed mode with the air bleeds from both engines and the APU on. You can see the APU pressurizing there, the duct pressure. Okay, so the APU is running, and so we're going to put that on bus, and you should have heard the air conditioning spool up. The air conditioning is blowing nice and cool now. I'm going to test the overheat for the window heat, power test for the window heat, turn all the window heat on. And the anti-ice probes, that's pitot heat. This is just a fancy word for pitot heat. That all looks good. Let's go ahead and get the IRS set. This is going to be our main navigational tool. Set both of those to nav. This thing takes 7 minutes to align, and we have to feed it our current position so that it's accurate for our flight. So we can see our coordinates right up here, so I'm going to go ahead and put them in. So we're at north 47, 26.7, and we're going to be at west 122.18.1. Okay, enter that. It's going to take 8 minutes for the IRS to align at this point. We've got more than enough stuff to keep us busy for 8 minutes. Getting one of these airliners up and running is it's a task. Okay, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start programming the FMC. Oh, really quick. Let me go in here really quick, and I want to fix the style of the LCDs, and CDUs are both going to be LCD. Okay. I was simulating an older version of this aircraft earlier, so I've kind of brought it up to date. Okay, so we're going to program the FMC. So first thing that we're going to do is I'm actually going to order fuel. So let's go into the menu, the simulation page, and let's go ahead and look at how much fuel we're going to need. I'm going to jump over to my flight plan here, and we have got... am I still streaming? I'll be darned, I am. Okay, so this is our flight plan here. This is going to be all the information that we need here to program the FMS for the flight. So it says our block fuel is going to be 13,821 pounds of fuel. So I need to balance that between the two wing tanks. So we're going to go 13.82 divided by 2. That's going to be 6,910 pounds per side. So 6.91. So let's go back here. So 6. Oops. Let's turn the keyboard on. Okay. 6.91 desired. The valve's on, so we can see it's starting to fill up. Okay, and we're going to go to number 2 tank. 6.91. That's desired fuel. Valve is on. Return and go to the init ref page. Okay. And we can see that those tanks are starting to fill up now. So this is the performance initialization page. This is where we're going to enter the physical parameters of the flight. Basically, the aircraft's physical properties, and that will allow the FMS, the flight management system, to calculate all the right altitudes and speeds that we need to operate most efficiently. So the first thing that I like to enter is the zero fuel weight. So we're going to get that from this. Okay. So our zero fuel weight, as I entered it, is 129,900 pounds. So that's going to be entered as 129.9. Okay, FMS reserve. So this is reserve fuel that we're carrying. This is when we're going to get an alert if it predicts that we're going to go under this amount of fuel by the time we reach our destination. So that's the amount of the total fuel that we're going to list as reserved in case of emergencies. So next thing we need is cost index, which is going to be 80. The cost index is something that dispatch works out for each flight to figure out how to most economically govern the plane's flight parameters. So 80 is pretty common, especially for Alaska Airlines. I think that's actually their default is cost index of 80. Cruise altitude is what we're going to enter next. So right now, flight level 250, so that's 25,000 feet. This plane, of course, works much more efficiently at much higher altitudes than that, but since this is such a short flight, we're not even going to be able to cruise that high. We don't have time to get up to that altitude. Okay, so top of climb winds are going to be 260 at 32. And ISA deviation is going to be +7. Okay, N1 limit. Oh, actually, let's go ahead and make sure we enter total fuel. So it's going to be 13.8. Okay. Sorry, I had to respond to a text there. Okay, so now we're going to go to the N1 limit page. This is where we would select our D rates if we're using a really long runway and it's cold outside, so we don't need full takeoff power. I'm not going to mess with that right now. Let's go to our takeoff parameters. I set flaps to 5. And then this is going to calculate our V-speeds. We're not going to lock those in yet, though, because we're not... you can see the fuel is still filling. So we're not at our full weight yet. So those numbers are going to update as we get heavier. So next, let's go ahead and program the flight itself. So we're going to go to the route page. So our route origin is going to be Kilo Sierra Echo Alpha. That is the identifier for Seattle, and we're going to Kilo Golf Echo Golf, which is Spokane International. We are Alaska 950. That's our flight number, so we're going to go ahead and put that in there. And now let's go ahead and first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in our departure. So I know that we are going to be departing runway 34 right, because I already listened to ATIS. We're not going to use a standard instrument departure on this flight. Dispatch did not deem that was necessary. So we're going to go into route, and we're going to program our route, which we're going to get off our flight plan as well. So Seattle, direct to the Zadon intersection. All intersections worldwide, these are intersections between airways, they all have a 5-letter identifier. So that's what I'm inputting. And then we're going direct to ZLAC. And the 5-letter identifiers, they're all roughly pronounceable. So ZLAC to Ziran. Ziran to Zoomer. And I know, because I've done this flight so many times, that the Zoomer intersection is where we are going to pick up our standard terminal arrival for Spokane. And we're going to come in on the Zoomer 1 standard terminal arrival. I don't know which runway we're going to get yet, so I'm going to leave that blank. Go back to route, hit activate, hit execute, and check our legs page. Make sure everything looks good. Make sure we don't have any route inconsistencies, but I mean the route is so short that it's only one page. So let's go ahead and go back into here. Limits, N1 limits, we already set that. I just like to double and triple check everything. Alright, take off. Okay, so we are set at this point. We've got all of our gas, we're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and lock in my V speeds. V1, that is our speed of no return. Past that speed, we will not have enough runway to slow down, so I have to commit to take off at that point. VR, which I'm going to lock in now, that is our speed of rotation. That's when we're actually going to lift the nose up off the ground. In V2, that I'm going to lock in right now, that is our minimum safety speed. That's the minimum speed that we can safely stay in the air at. So I'm going to enter V2 plus 10 into the master control panel, which is where we run the autopilot from, which is right here. So we need to set that to 160 knots. Okay, and while I'm up here, I'm going to go ahead and turn on both the pilot and co-pilot's flight director. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to get our IFR clearance. So I'm going to allow my virtual co-pilot to do all of the radio work and talking for us. So I'm going to let him do that now. Oh. Silly me. Hold on a second. Options, settings, sound. I turned down the air traffic control sound because it was bothering me. Okay. Time to maintain 1000. 2451.
Spokane Airport as filed. Fly runway heading, climate maintain 1000. Departure on 120.1. Squawk 2451. Alaska
2451.
correct.
Fantastic.
Ground on 121.7 when ready to taxi.
Okay, I'm going to leave us on clearance right now so that we don't have to listen to all the ground radio chatter. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and turn the sound back up on air traffic control to like 75%. Yeah, that's okay. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make all kinds of terrible whistles and bells and noises. So what we're going to do is we're going to test all the aircraft's warning systems. Okay, and then we're going to go up here and look at the IRS again, so that's all good. So position reporting is on.
Seattle, clearance delivery, Alaska, Port 900, ready to copy. IFR, clearance, Lindbergh, Alaska, Port 900, cleared at Lindbergh.
I'm going to let this guy stop talking.
Climb and maintain 1000. Departure frequency is 120.1, squawk 0521.
Okay, I'm going to...
Port 900, cleared Lindbergh Airport as filed. Fly runway heading, climb and maintain 1000. Departure on 120.1, squawk 0521. Alaska, Port 900,
keep getting interrupted.
Contact ground on 121.7 when ready to taxi.
Air traffic control, artificial intelligence for Flight Sim 2004 is terrible. Let's switch to ground, I guess. I don't want to listen to that. Anyway, I'm going to turn on the overspeed warning. That's the test. Stall warning test. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Okay, and now we're going to hold that up, make sure all of our good lights come on. Okay. Alright, those are all good.
Seattle ground, Alaska, Port 900 with whiskey, ready to taxi.
I'm going to test TCAS.
Port 900, taxi to and hold short of runway 3 or right, team taxiway Bravo. Contact tower at 119.9 when ready.
TCAS system test okay.
TCAS is good, so I'm going to go ahead, turn on traffic, turn on terrain, and data for my waypoints. Okay, now this is going to be the one that really stinks, because there's going to be a million different sounds that this makes. Every warning that the plane makes is going to go off, so don't freak out, it's just a test.
Flight slow. Hold up. Wind shear, wind shear, wind shear. Terrain, terrain. Hold up. Sink rate. Hold up. Don't sink. Too low, terrain. Too low, gear. Too low, flat. Flight slow. Bank angle, bank angle.
Approaching minimums. Minimums 2,500, 1,000, 500, 400, 300, 200, 100, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Wind shear, wind shear, wind shear. Too low, terrain. Caution, terrain. Caution, terrain. Terrain, terrain. Hold up.
Taxi to and hold short of runway 3 or right, team taxiway Bravo. Contact
Alright,
tower at 119.9
good to go.
Taxi to and hold short runway 3 or right via taxiway Bravo, United 356.
Okay, so I am going to go ahead, turn off the air conditioning packs. Now you can see that the duct pressure gauge is indicating more pressure than I had before, and that is the pressure that we are going to use to start the engines. So yaw damper is on. I'm going to go ahead and switch the generator over to generator 2 because I'm going to start engine 2 first. Okay, so everything should be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and request taxi.
Seattle ground.
Where my co-pilot is.
50 with Yankee, ready to taxi IFR.
Alaska 950, taxi to and hold short of runway 34, right, using taxiway Bravo. Contact tower at 119.9er when ready.
Alright, so I'm going to turn on progressive taxi.
Hold short runway 34, right, using taxiway Bravo.
Since I don't actually have a marshaller to get me out of here, I'm going to look at which way I need to back out. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do what's called a push and start. And while we start pushing back, which pushback is initiated, I'm going to go ahead and start the engines. Okay. Alright, so we're starting engine 2. What we're looking for is the N2 percentage to come up to about 22%, and then I'll go ahead and turn on the fuel to the engine. There we go. Fuel is on. You might notice that you don't hear a whole lot, because we're significantly ahead of the engines. You actually don't hear the engines a whole lot in an aircraft like this. Alright, pushback is complete. We'll go ahead and reset the parking brake.
120, hold position, caution Belvedere -8 on final.
Hold position, Alaska 120.
Alright, so we're good to go on that engine. I'm going to go ahead and start engine 1. And again, we're going to watch. I can pop this out and look at it here. We're going to watch for the N2 to come up to 22%. Okay.
Taxiing to Gate Delta 4, using taxiway Mike Bravo. Alaska 619er. Alaska 619er. Hold position, caution under traffic. Alaska 619er. Hold position, caution at Airbus A320 on the taxiway. Hold position, Alaska 619er.
Okay, we're good to go. Alright, so both of the engines are started, so I'm going to go ahead and put the generator onto the engines. So that is set. I can go ahead and turn the packs back on. But it doesn't just provide air conditioning, it also provides... sorry, I'm going to reset the pressurization system here really quick. 25,000. Okay, and our landing altitude is set, so that's good. Anyway, the air conditioning packs also provide pressurization to the aircraft, so it's quite a vital component. Okay. Alright, let me turn all my hydraulic pumps on, both engine and electric, make sure yaw damper is on. Everything is good to go. I can go ahead and shut off the APU at this point, turn off the APU bleed. Alright, go ahead and turn on taxi lights. Alright, so here we go. Advance the throttles a little bit. Okay, I'm going to turn transponder to standby. Oh, it was already on standby. Alright, here we go. So we are going to taxi to runway 34. And this little pink line that we're following is going to take us right there. That, of course, is not a feature of the real world. I mean, you can get progressive taxi from ground control in real life, but they sure don't like to do it. Alright, pull the engines back to idle. We should have enough thrust to keep us rolling forward at no more than 20 knots ground speed. We read our ground speed right there. Who put that truck right in my way? Doesn't seem right. I'll cut through the middle here. Okay, so I'm going to set flaps to 5. That lever, oh, it's behind the throttles, you can't see it right now. Oh well, trust me, it's there. And then this little thing right here, this little round thing, tells us what our flaps are actually set to. I'm also going to set the auto brakes to RTO, that stands for rejected takeoff. Just in case the airplane senses that we're slowing down on takeoff, it'll automatically put the wheel brakes on and attempt to slow us down, so I don't have to think about doing that. It's pretty handy.
Alaska 619er, hold position, caution under traffic. Hold position, Alaska 619er.
Alright, slow us down just a little bit because we gotta take a little bit of a curve here.
Delta 183 with Charlie, ready to taxi IFR. Delta 183, taxi to and hold short of runway 34, right, using taxiway Bravo. Contact tower 119er, point 9er when ready. Taxi and hold short runway 34, right, using taxiway Bravo. Delta 183. Seattle Brown, Delta 1962, heavy.
Yeah, the graphics are horrible. The AI traffic is horrible, but you know what? I really have a soft spot for Flight Sim 2004. I've been using it since it came out, and I have invested more money than I care to admit, actually, in add-ons for this. I've never been willing to upgrade. And from what I do know about, like, Flight Sim X, which is the one that came out after this, was it had a lot more of a video game feel to it. And I have seen some gameplay, and it just, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's as much about simulation as FS 2004. I don't know. I could just be biased because it's what I know, and it's what I've been using for so long, but anyway, I don't even know who I'm talking to right now. I don't know who you are. It doesn't mean I don't like you. Oh my god, look at that line. Oh, look at that line. I may, I may exploit the fact that this is not the real world and reset the AI traffic really quick so that I don't have to wait in this line. Yeah, that would seriously take us a half an hour to be able to take off at this point. There are so many planes there. Hold on, I'm going to pause this for a second. And I am going to go into here and refresh the AI traffic. Lo and behold, looks like we're going to be first in line now. And I have waited, folks. I have waited in those lines before, and it is brutal. Trust me. It's like, you just want to get to flying, and you gotta wait in line for a half an hour to even take off. So by the time you get in the air, you're already sick of it. But that's kind of what it's like in the real world as well. Alright, so I'm going to do a quick cross-check before I have my co-pilot ask for takeoff clearance.
Seattle, ground, Alaska 344 with Delta, ready to taxi IFR.
Alright, so let's go ahead and pull up to the hold short line.
Taxi 2 and hold short, runway 34 right, via taxiway Bravo, Alaska 344. Seattle ground, Alaska.
Okay, we're going to set the parking brakes really quick. Alright, so we're going to make sure that we're really prepared for takeoff. So I'm going to go ahead and arm the auto throttle. I'm going to arm LNAV and VNAV. Oh, LNAV. Okay, sorry. Yeah, LNAV is not going to arm yet because we are not. Okay, so 5-1 to Zadon, so I'm going to go ahead. Set this to 51. LNAV I'm not going to turn on, but heading select I'm not going to turn on yet either. I'm going to go ahead and just, I'll control the plane laterally, but I'll let it control the vertical navigation. Now, these planes run completely on the autopilot. The autopilot flies the entire flight. As soon as I put the gear up, basically, I'm going to turn the autopilot on. The plane is going to do all the rest of the work. And that's how you keep it efficient. You just let the plane do what it does best. I turn on my runway turn-off lights, my landing lights. I'll explain more of that after we get in the air. But anyways, everything is ready to go. Probably should have turned the seatbelt signs on. I'm going to put those into on. Okay, we're all set and ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and call the tower. Okay, we're going to call for clearance.
Seattle Tower, Alaska, Niner 50, ready for IFR departure, runway 34, right. Alaska, Niner 50, cleared for takeoff, runway 34, right.
Alright, cleared for takeoff, simple as that.
Takeoff, runway 34, right. Alaska, Niner 50.
This is the exciting part. Go ahead and get on the runway here.
Seattle Tower, Alaska,
Lined up.
361 is 9 miles south, inbound ILS, runway 34, right.
Alright, we're going to go ahead and spool the engines up to 40%.
Tower, fly straight in, runway 34,
And here we go.
altimeter 2995.
Toga engaged.
Straight in, runway 34, right. Alaska 361.
$80 knots. V1 and rotate. Here we go. And we are in the air.
Alaska 61, 9 miles south.
Positive rate, gear is up.
Runway 34, right approach.
Alaska 61, Seattle Tower, fly straight
Look at
in,
that.
runway 34,
Alright,
right.
we are above
Altimeter
400 feet.
2995. Alaska 950.
Autopilot
Contact
engaged.
Seattle departure on 120.1.
Turn this guy off.
Alaska 361, cleared to land, runway 34, right.
Okay, acknowledge handoff.
Runway
Whoops.
34, right. Alaska 361. 120.1. Alaska 950.
Alright, so you see these speeds coming up here?
Runway 34. Seattle departure, Alaska 950.
That one right there. So at that point, we're going to bring the flaps up to 1 degree.
Alaska 950.
Okay, bringing the flaps up to 1 degree. You can see the arrow over here going to 1. Okay, and then when it goes to up, we're going to bring the flaps all the way up, and we will be clean.
Resume on navigation. Climb and maintain 1000.
Okay,
Turn right heading 055. Resume on navigation.
turn right heading 055.
Alaska 950.
Okay, heading select is on. Alright, and that little thing right there shows our below 10,000 foot speed limit, which is 250 knots. So the plane will go ahead and slow itself down at that point.
Turn right heading 085.
Turn right heading 085. Alaska
Heading
950.
085. Once we get stabilized after departure here, we'll go to some external views of the airplane because it's just so pretty and it's so nice to look at it. Okay, we're good, so I can turn auto brakes off. Okay, and let's zoom out the navigational display. Okay.
Alaska 950. Contact Seattle Center on 128.5.
Okay, that's us again.
128.5. Alaska 950.
Alright, in Seattle Center.
Seattle Center, Alaska 950 is at 7,900, climbing 1000. Alaska 950, Seattle Center, roger, altimeter 29995.
29905. Okay, we're passing through 9,000 feet, and we're only cleared to 11,000 feet. So we've got that set on the MCP right now. That's the master control panel. And as we're cleared higher, we'll go ahead and set that to our next highest cleared altitude, and then hit the altitude intervention, and the plane will climb on its own. Okay, we're above 10,000 feet, so I'm going to turn off all the external lights.
Roger. Altimeter 29997. Alaska 950. Turn left, heading 055. Proceed on course.
Okay, I can turn LNAV on now,
Alaska 950.
and the plane will now navigate on its own.
Resume on navigation. Climb and
So
maintain flight
it's
level
now
210.
flying completely with no input from
Turn
me.
left, heading 055. Resume on
So
navigation.
I can actually,
Climb and maintain
I can kick
flight
back.
level 210. Alaska 950.
Alright, crossing the Cascade Mountains here.
South turn right, heading 310. Descend and maintain 2,200. Cleared ILS. Runway 34, right, approach. Maintain 2,200 until established on the localizer. Contact Seattle Tower on 119.9. Alaska 950. Contact Seattle Departure on 120.1. 120.1. Alaska 950. Seattle departure, Alaska 950.
It's Mount Rainier.
Is climbing through 11,000 for flight level 210.
210.
Seattle departure, roger, altimeter 29994.
And then so you can see what I'm doing. I'm hitting that altitude intervention button. And now the aircraft will go back into N1 hold, so the engines will spool back up, and the plane will climb again, following the VNAV path.
120.3 for Alaska 950.
Alaska 619, turn right heading 205.
Seattle Center, Alaska 950 is climbing through 11,700 for flight level 210.
Alaska 950, Seattle Center, roger. Current altimeter 29995, Cactus 570, turn left heading 075, resume on navigation, climb and maintain flight level 270. Turn left heading 075, proceed on course, climb and maintain flight level 270, Cactus 570.
Alright, so we're still climbing, not a lot to do at this point. So the aircraft is going to hold 322 knots. It'll climb on its own. It'll climb at whatever pitch is necessary to maintain that speed at current power setting. If we go back down here and look at the FMC, and we look at climb, we can see that our crossover speed is going to be Mach 0.766. So when 321 equals Mach 0.766, it'll stop airspeed hold and it'll start Mach hold. And it'll do that on its own. All I have to do is monitor. Alright, and once we're passing through 18,000 feet, that is Class A airspace. That is what is known as transition altitude in the United States, and that we will set our altimeter to standard setting, which is 29.902 inches. And that just helps us all make sure that we're all using the same barometer setting, so we're not flying into each other. Okay, passing through 18,000 feet, so I'm going to hit standard. Okay, and we're just going to watch this for a second. You can see down here that it's set to standard. And then... oh.
Contact Seattle Center on 132.6.
132.6. Rise in air 322.
Alaska Diner 50, climb and maintain flight level 250.
Okay, flight level 250. So hit altitude intervention.
Climb and maintain flight level 250. Alaska Diner 50.
All right, so let's take a look at this beautiful airplane from the outside. This is our flyby view. Look at that beauty. This is the biggest of the 737s. But not the farthest flying. It trades a little bit of range for payload. Beautiful. And as hot as it is, we're probably not going to get high enough to make contrails, so bit of a bummer. But better for the environment, huh? Okay, so if we look at the ND, which is the navigational display right here, you can see that little thing right there, TC, that's our computed top of climb. So we're almost there. We're almost to top of climb. And then if we zoom out further, we can see our next waypoint. So we can see any traffic in the way. That little diamond right there with the -7 under it, the -8. That says that that's an aircraft that's 800 feet below us, and so on and so forth. You know, whatever that number is. And if it's a plus, that means that they're above us by however much. But anyway, TCAS will keep us from colliding with anybody, of course. And that alarm that you hear, that beep sound, that just is a reminder that we're arriving at the altitude that's set on the MCP. Okay, so you can see that we're in climb mode right now. And as we actually arrive at 25,000 feet, which is what we have listed in the FMC as our cruising altitude, our initial cruising altitude, the engines will automatically transition to cruise phase. Yeah, you see it just went to CRZ, cruise phase. And the power will start pulling back here in just a second so that we maintain a constant airspeed. Right, so we're level at 2,500 feet, 25,000 feet. And yeah, all is well. So we're not going to hit, I don't think we're going to hit our optimum cruise Mach because, again, we're too low. 25,000 feet is really low for a plane like this. Typically we'd be cruising in the mid to high 30,000s. But it's not really economical. They say that if you can't maintain an altitude for at least 20 minutes before it's time to descend, it's not economical to cruise up to that speed. And look at the ND. Top of descent is in like 40 miles. I mean, we're going to be coming down almost immediately. So that brings me to my next point. We need to set up our descent here. So let me look at the legs page. So we're going to need to descend. I'm going to go ahead and set this for 15,000 feet. And we'll deal with the repercussions of that later. It's not a big deal. It just ensures that the aircraft will descend when we hit top of descend. This is the interplay between human and machine, basically. It's like I tell the plane the parameters that it can operate inside of, and it won't go outside of those. Otherwise, it works autonomously. So it basically does everything itself, but it does rely on input from me. It's not completely. It's not a completely automated thing, but it's pretty close. So basically, what I've done, this was set at 25,000 feet. That means that the aircraft won't deviate from that altitude. Even if it hits an event like top of descent, it won't deviate from that because that's what I've set. So I've just set this as a placeholder. I've set it to 10,000 feet lower so that when it hits that top of descent event, it will go ahead and start to descend on its own, and I'll have 10,000 feet to figure out what we're doing. we're flying over, this is the eastern foothills of the Cascades. So top of descent is coming up in 20 nautical miles. So again, the AI for the air traffic control in this, oh, that's us. Acknowledge handoff.
126.1 for Alaska 950. Seattle Center, Alaska 950. With you, flight level 250.
Alaska 950, Seattle Center, roger.
So anyway, like I was saying, the AI in Flight Sim 2004 is abysmal. So they're going to give us a lot of instructions that I'm going to ignore because it doesn't understand instrument departures and standard terminal arrivals and things like that. It's just too old. But I think it's amazing that they were able to create add-ons that do utilize that kind of technology and insert it into this. I think it's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and request descent because top of descent is coming up.
Delta 588 heavy traffic in sight. Seattle Center.
And we'll request a 10,000 foot descent.
Request 15,000.
Alaska 950, descend and maintain 17,000. Expect 15,000.
Okay.
Descend and maintain 17,000. Expect 15,000.
Zoomer. Okay, so let's look at our descent page. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that all the same. That's all going to be good.
Boeing 767 in sight.
And what I am going to do is I'm going to bring up the arrivals page because they'll give me a runway soon and I'll be able to finally input the runway. I'm guessing it's probably going to be runway 21.
Horizon Air 322, traffic at 5 o'clock, 4 miles at flight level 248.
That is, let's see what that is.
Alaska 950.
That is a Horizon Q400 on its way to Spokane probably too. Look how much faster we are than it. It's a little turboprop. But it's just, oh, they told us to. Okay, top of descent is initiated. So you see the throttles are coming back automatically on their own, and the aircraft has started to descend. And it's going to try to hold that speed for us, 331 knots. Alright, so we're descending. Okay, I've got to pay a lot of attention to stuff right now. Okay, we're getting a traffic warning. I see it, and we're fine. Alright. I'm not going to say a lot right now because I have a lot to pay attention to right now, so just watch.
Horizon Air 322, traffic in sight.
I have a lot of things to monitor. That is Lake Chelan. I spent some time on that lake a long time ago. It's a beautiful place.
Delta 588 heavy, climb and maintain flight level 330.
Climb and maintain flight level.
Let's take another outside look at the plane, huh? Look at that beauty. Alright. gonna make sure I'm still streaming really quick. I am. Look at that. I'm still streaming. Right? Yeah. Wow. This is working. I don't believe it. Alright, and once we're under 18,000 feet, which we're coming up on, then we're going to set the altimeter back to local setting. Cleared to 15,000 at this point. I'm gonna drop to 9,000 now, actually. So 6,000 feet decrease.
Seattle Center, Alaska 950. Request 9,000.
Alaska 950. Descend and maintain 15,000. Expect 9,000.
I will expect 9,000.
15,000. Expect 9,000.
Oh, let me come out of standard and set back to local barometer.
Miles west. Turn left heading 030. Expect vectors ILS. Runway 21. Approach.
That's what I thought. Runway 21.
Turn left heading 030.
Eggs. Okay, so acknowledge assigned approach.
Turn left heading.
Okay, let me fix this route discontinuity.
9,000. Expect vectors ILS. Runway 21.
Okay, I'm gonna make that a hard 5,500 feet.
950.
Okay, so go ahead and execute that. All right. All right, so the aircraft is arresting its descent at this point because now that I told it what runway we're using, it's actually determined that I'm too low. So you can see it's saying that I'm too low by about 9,500 feet. So I'm just going to hold altitude here until my altitude catches up with where we are laterally. I don't know a better way to explain that. It makes sense in my head, but...
Going to 119.225, Delta 588 heavy.
Alright, still continuing to monitor. Monitor. Okay, and I'm going to come down...
Alaska 950, please expedite your descent to 9,000.
That thought just kind of trailed off there, but... Anyway, so the plane is going to slow itself down now. You can actually see that it's automatically slowing down. That little green line there shows that our speed is trending downwards. And it's automatically reset the speed for 240 knots because, again, it's against the law to fly faster than 250 knots under 10,000 feet. And we're coming up on that pretty soon, so the plane knows to slow itself down. If planes flew faster than that, down under 10,000 feet, I mean, that's where air traffic gets really hairy and congested, it would be a bloodbath. So this whole thing where they keep saying, please expedite your descent to 9,000, well, that's because, again, the AI doesn't know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing, and that's all that matters. In Seattle Center again, contact Seattle Center. Alright, so now we've hit 240 knots.
Alaska Diner 50, please expedite your descent to 9,000.
My engines are spooling back up. You can see that right there so that we can maintain 240 knots.
Alaska Diner 50, please expedite your descent to 9,000.
I am descending to 9,000. You just don't understand what I'm doing. Okay, and actually I need to set the MCP for 3,900 feet because that's going to be our final approach altitude. So 3,900 feet.
Alaska Diner 50, please expedite your descent to 9,000.
I'm so sick of hearing that, but it'll be okay. It'll be okay. It's not much longer. Okay, so let's go back and look at legs again, and also, whoa, come on. Also, I want to look at init ref for the approach. I'm going to go ahead and lock in our final approach speed. So we're going to use 40 degrees of flap, which is full flap. So it's going to give us 137 knots is going to be VREF, or our final approach speed. Our final approach reference speed.
Alaska Diner 50.
Spokane approach.
Spokane approach. Alaska Diner 50 is out of 1,200 for 9,000. Alaska Diner 50. Spokane approach. Roger. Altimeter 2985.
2985.
Alaska Diner 50. Please expedite your descent to 9,000.
Okay, so let's start doing some final checks here. So the ILS is already tuned. That's the instrument landing system. Okay, and our course is already set to runway heading. I'm actually going to set our heading to runway heading in case we have to do a missed approach. Okay, so I'm just waiting to cross that 10,000 foot threshold, and then we'll go ahead and turn on the rest of the turn on the rest of the external lighting, landing lights, runway turn-off lights, what have you.
Alaska Diner 50, please expedite your descent to 9,000.
Okay. Seems like a lot of waiting around, but it's because that's exactly what it is. We're very close, though.
Please expedite your descent to 9,000.
We can actually see, if we look at the ND here, GEG right there. This is the airport, so we're very close. We're almost within 10 nautical miles. Now, of course, we have to go up this way a little bit. You can see if I expand the view. I'm going to go up here, and then we're going to turn around. We're going to do a complete 180, basically, and head back towards the runway. But I like to have a little bit more of a zoomed-in view when we're this close. Alright, and I'm going to start monitoring our speed very closely. So by the Lucev intersection, we want to be at 5,500 feet. And I said that's a hard 5,500 feet. So you'll see we're still holding altitude at about 10,400 feet. But if you look right here, you'll see we're quickly starting to finally close that gap of being too low. And this little pink diamond will come down, and once it hits that line, the plane will start to descend again and try to remain on that flight path.
Please expedite your descent to Niner South.
And we also have a representation of that right here on the PFD. That pink triangle is the same thing as the pink diamond. And you see it's coming down now. Okay, so now that we're going to start diving below 10,000 feet, I'm going to start configuring us for landing. So I'm going to put the auto brakes on 2. So again, I don't have to worry about wheel braking. As soon as we touch down on the runway, the brakes will automatically engage. Same as the spoilers, which are our air brakes. So I'm going to arm those right now. That lever you see says speed brake. I've got that armed into automatic. So that'll pop up as soon as we touch down. We got a light right there that tells us that the speed brake is armed. Okay, so you can see that we're descending again, just as predicted. So we're right on the glide slope. Okay, we're under 10,000 feet now, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on all my external lights. And the throttle has pulled itself back again. I'm going to look at, so I'm going to set speed for 234.
Niner 50, you are 9 miles west, turn right, heading 175, descend and maintain 4,000, cleared ILS, runway 21, approach.
So I'm taking over manual control of the speed.
Contact Spokane Tower on 118.3. Turn right, heading 175, descend and maintain 4,000, cleared ILS, runway 21, approach, maintain 4,000 until established. Tower on 118.3, Alaska 950.
Okay, so tune Spokane Tower, and we're going to contact the tower.
Alaska 950 is 6 miles west, inbound ILS, runway 21. Alaska 950, Spokane Tower, big bite traffic, runway 21, altimeter 2985. Entered right downwind, runway 21, Alaska.
I'm actually going to slow us down even more. I'm going to slow us down under 200 knots now. We're down to about 190. So I'm going to start putting flaps out to slow us down even more. Give us about 5 degrees of flaps. Okay, and okay, so 159 is what I'm going to set us for now. Slow us down even more. Alright, and we are turning to final at this point, basically, so I am going to final cross check here. Okay, so 142 is what I'm going to set MCP speed to when we start this turn. Here we go, 142, I'll put the gear down, get us more flaps out. Alright. Landing gear is down and locked. We're still slowing down nicely. We're still on glide slope. I'm going to go ahead and give us another notch of flaps.
$2,500.
Okay, 2,500 feet. Okay, I'm going to put us in approach mode now. Alright. Flaps are going down full.
Alaska 950, cleared to land, runway 21. Cleared to land, runway 21. Alaska 950.
Alright, here's the runway. Okay. Turning off LNAV, and I am going to go ahead and take manual control of the airplane at this point.
$1,000.
Terrain, terrain. Terrain, terrain.
And we're just going to keep on the glide slope there. I'm a little bit low, so I'm going to pull us up just a little bit. Aircraft is maintaining airspeed for me.
400. $300.
Terrain, terrain.
$100. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Okay, retarding the throttle. Alright, thrust reversers are engaged. And we are slowing down. And we're going to come out of thrust reverse. After we slow down to 60 knots. Alright, welcome to Spokane. Alright, I'm going to turn off the auto brake. I'll brake myself now. Okay, so before we even come off the runway, we're going to pause for a second. I love watching my landings, so I am going to turn on instant replay. Still in the air. Look at us go.
$400. Approaching minimums. Minimums.
Look at it. It's so exciting. As soon as we touch down, the thrust reversers will engage and the spoilers will pop
100.
up automatically. And the plane will start to
50,
slow down.
40, 30, 20, 10.
Beautiful. Look at that. Just like it's supposed to be. that is how it's done. Okay, we're out of reverse. I'm going to go back in and... Alright. So let's go ahead. And get ourselves off the runway here. And go park. Alright, so autopilot's disconnected. I'm going to go ahead and start the APU while we're still on the runway here. I'm going to turn off my runway turn off. And landing lights, I'm also going to turn my strobes back into steady. Go ahead and pull the flaps back up. I'm very satisfied with that.
Alaska 950, contact ground on 121.9er.
Alright, let's see where ground is going to put us. Spokane ground, request taxi to gates.
Spokane ground, Alaska 950, taxi to the gate.
Alaska 950, taxi to gate 30, via taxiway Charlie Alpha, Alpha 1.
Taxiing to gate 30, using taxiway Charlie Alpha, Alpha 1, Alaska 950.
On our progressive taxi again. Alright, so this is Spokane International, and as someone who has flown in and out of this airport many times, and someone who is a pilot and pays attention to everything, everything aviation related, I can tell you that this is a very good representation of this airport. We even got the parking structure. I've parked in that building there more times than I can count.
Taxi to and hold short runway 21, via taxiway Alpha 4, Alpha, Southwest 2704.
APU should be on by now, so we're going to go ahead and switch back to APU gen up here. We're going to turn on the APU bleed. Get us back on the APU. That's the auxiliary power unit. It's a little itty-bitty jet engine that lives actually right in there. See that little outlet right there? That's the exhaust for the APU. It's a little itty-bitty jet engine that... oh, I still have my spoilers up. How embarrassing. How embarrassing. But it's a little itty-bitty jet engine that uses just a minimal amount of fuel, and it supplies electrical power to the aircraft when the engines aren't running. Because normally that's where the electric power comes, is from the engines. But while you're on the ground and you have all these fancy electronic gizmos and doodads, they're actually called avionics, if you want to be technical about it. But in order to power all of those things requires a lot of power. So virtually all jet aircraft have something called an APU, auxiliary power unit. And that's what the plane's electricity is running on right now at this very moment, is the APU. But if you ever wondered when you're sitting on an airplane why it kind of sounds a little bit like there's a jet engine running when, you know, you're just sitting there waiting for the plane to get pushed back, it's because there is a little jet engine running. It's a little itty-bitty one. And all it does is make power so that you can charge your cell phone. Alright, coming to the gate now. Now again, since I don't have an actual marshaller, I'm going to go up to this view and marshal myself in. Alright, we're in. There's the jetway. I'm going to go ahead and put the parking brake on. Okay, and we're already on the APU, so I'm going to go ahead and well, I guess I'll turn off the engines because that's the next thing to do. I just cut the fuel off to the engines directly, and that shuts them down. And now I can go ahead and turn off the fasten seatbelt sign. Alright, and we are parked, all set and ready to disembark all of the passengers that are on this socially distanced flight. I actually got on Alaska's website and saw what they're doing about socially distancing people on flights, and I used the configuration tool to set up the passenger load for this airplane to reflect that. So thank you for flying Alaska Airlines. It was my pleasure to be your captain this evening. Have a good time in Spokane. I'm going to stop broadcasting now.